Welcome back, everybody, to our collective energy update for energetically sensitives and empaths. My name is bryndis, and I'm an energy coach, an energy reader, and energy healer. And I'm here to fill you in a little bit on what these energies are that are coming in from the outside, and perhaps help you a little bit with discerning what's yours and what isn't. Okay, so this is not a prediction. This is a picking up on energies here through these energy sessions at transCODES, currently airing out of Florida, where we do public remote energy sessions with people from all over the world here every week. And these are the findings. One of the things that we produce every week here is this collective energy barometer that you see. And don't mistake, this doesn't mean it's going to be a good or a bad week. It means that it's going to be either like an intense week or not so intense. And if you count yourself into this group of energetically sensitives or empaths, then you probably know what I mean with this. So this has to do with how we metabolize, how we process energies from the outside, which for, like a big part of the population, say 90%, 85% of the population is completely unaware of this. And even those of us who are empathetic and who pick up on collective energies, we still have a lot of sort of gaps and issues with contextualizing or interpreting what all this means. So most of us just experience this as intense, all right? And with it, of course, comes sort of a tendency to see this as like, oh my God, or panic or anxiety. And some of these I hope you share with me here today, because these energy updates are alive. And yes, guys, I'm starting to see you. Sorry for being a few minutes late. Hello, South Africa. Hello, East Coast Australia. Hello, Canada. I see you guys. New Mexico is here. Denmark is here. So wonderful to have you guys. Yes, and please let me know how things are contextualizing or boiling down for you, how you perceive the time right now. We have had quite a bit of sort of news media input here in regards to eclipse and full moon, and now is new moon, and now is another solar eclipse, and Lionsgate, and all these different things that people come up with to help them contextualize what is going on. And I'd love to hear how you guys are dealing with all of this. So please feel free to ask questions or just comment. I have a little surprise for you here today, and that's something that is actually more or less an intro for something that I'm going to do this weekend. So for this sacred self-healing community that we have here at transCODES, that's people who take our online course, how to learn energy work, how to learn how to direct and read and your own energies and so forth. We are having a free workshop here this weekend called The Energetic Aspects of Spirituality and Religion. And if you are part of this Sacred Self-Healing community, it's free for you. If you want to buy a ticket, it's $25. You can sign up on the transCODES website, and there's a recording and all of that. But the surprise that I have for you is that I'm going to, for the first time actually, give you guys a little bigger picture here of where all these different sort of spiritual movements that we seek, or that help us to contextualize some of what we're experiencing, what they actually calibrate at from an energetic point of view. So what the truth and the integrity value is. So stand by here. I'm going to bring up a comparative study of the lower vibratory spiritual, say, groupings or teachings, okay? And only to show you that some things are, not as integrous as you think They are. And in the workshop, we're going to illuminate all the world religions and specific spiritual concepts, all right, and what they sort of mean in the larger perspective of, say, collective consciousness, divine consciousness, and so forth. Yeah, that's going to be interesting. So Saturday evening here, U.S. time. All right, so last week, guys, was a pretty intense week once more, and we had a bifurcated arrow, meaning that depending on where you were at with yourself and sort of with the being willing to truthfully reflect on your say the hidden stuff in you, your inner darkness, it would either translate into an interesting week or invigorating or vitalizing week, or it could pull you further down into fear or depression. And of course, as an energy coach here, I talk to, I don't know, 50 people every week, and I've seen the entire variety of that. But there was one thing that I sort of poked you with, and I said, call yourself out, call yourself out if you are really doing your best. And if, no matter what your personal circumstances at the moment, if this is really the highest expression of yourself. And I also recommended that this may actually be a good week to do this with our partners, provided that there is an agreement between you and your partner that you are both living and striving for a relationship that is based on true self goals, higher vibratory goals, and also true love. And I was going to ask you guys, did any one of you do this? Did anybody get into these discussions with their partner, maybe, about sort of, what you're truly bringing in, and if you're really living up to your highest potential? Did anybody do this? How did this go for you? Let me know if you actually did this. Now, I honestly never recommend anything that I'm not doing myself, all right? This is a mixture of what I experienced through the energy sessions and also observing my own energies. And I did this, and I did this for myself, and I did this with my family, and it was actually quite an interesting experience. Invigorating, really. You'd think that people get mad at you when you do this, but if you come from a place of truth, speak your truth and speak from the heart, and you're really just in there to acknowledge things the way they are, without making a drama out of it, or without judging it, or without reacting to it, then something really, really cool can come out of that. So what is this next week bringing us here? You see the headlines or the theme for the week here, rocking up, and the arrow is starting to become a little more greenish. Are we there yet? Are we over yet? No, we're not. But the energies are shifting into a place of more harmony, of less polarities. Okay, so these last couple of weeks were signified by us really having to, or being forced to deal with our inner dualities. And we're not quite done yet, but this following week it's going to be more mental for most of you guys, in the sense of that you will discover some of your thought processes and your thinking structure, and how that's actually well, maybe not illusionary, but not always based on truth, or not always as objective as you think. And to first, of course, discover and then acknowledge that our thinking structure and the beliefs and the judgments that we have can be quite ambiguous, and not to mention the fact that depending on where our energy is at a certain time, it also, determines the way we see things. All right, to acknowledge that and to realize that, guys, this is a huge, huge step on your journey, because it shows you the relativity of things, and it kind of, takes the electricity out of an opinion. You can never really be sure that the way you're seeing this right now is not perhaps biased by some of the energetic processes that you're going through, be it physical processes or emotional processes, or just etheric stuff or karmic stuff. So remember this here. When you run into these mental blocks or mental loopings with yourself, just call yourself to order. All right, call yourself into that place to say, okay, wait a minute, reset. Okay, I'm not getting anywhere with this. This is not getting me anywhere. Okay, so intellectualizing, mentalizing, rationalizing, all leads to coping mechanisms. I mean, there are coping mechanisms in themselves, but it all leads to dissociating from things. And then your ego mind will make you think, well, I'm detached, I'm letting go. No, you're not. No, you're not. There's a layer of your ego that makes you believe that you are. And I want to just give you guys a little bit of a heads up here for this next week. You're going to run into this without noticing it, especially those of us who have this sort of mental refuge, where when things get a little too intense for us, or when emotions get too big, or when collective energies get too bombarding, we go into this rationalized place. Yes, and I'm reading your chat comments here. Yes, roller coasters or Ferris wheel. This can also help to get the juices flowing, because you have to overcome some fears. And the best way to build trust in your inner abilities, in your inner ability to make a stance and to be able to fully trust yourself, is to overcome a fear. It can be something really small. Yes, and somebody is mentioning here, Annette is mentioning that there's a shift in energy somehow, and somehow also a shift in weather. Yes, I'm expecting that as well, as far as planetary changes is concerned here this next week. This heat wave that we have in Europe and in the US, and some of the dryness that some places experience here all over the world, is going to shift a little, and this may actually shift into the other extreme. So one of the visuals that I had when I was working with the energies for next week was a pendulum, and pendulum always means to me that there is, sort of coming out of like one extreme into the next, which is a very normal thing on our journey, because to overcome or to break through certain barriers or thresholds, we always have to come in with this breakthrough, this quantum leap energy, and that's always a bit more forceful, a bit more solar plexus than we actually want it to be. And so, we go into the other extreme at first, and then we have to learn how to balance, how to harmonize all of this with grace, so that whatever expression it is that we're seeking, that it becomes more graceful in its energy. Yes, so on a planetary Earth changes level, this means that we can observe some bigger shifts, okay? And it's the shift energy itself. So that, to me, usually indicates earthquakes. It can also create, sort of severe weather conditions in certain areas. Yes, and the thing with, the last week's energies, right, where I said, well, it could go either way, is that those of us who are active participants in their journey, for us, this is an interesting time. And remember last week I said, coach yourself with sort of, I wonder how we're going to resolve this. I wonder what's going to happen. I wonder what's going to come next. Keep this attitude here. And we're having a shift on weather here too. I don't know if you can hear this, but there's a thunder and lightning behind me going on. keep this attitude, okay, this curiosity, all right, because there's still a lot going on, and for most people, okay, who feel like they're I don't want to be judgmental, but it's almost like neurotic behavior is being triggered, okay, because the intensity is just too much. It's just so overwhelming that they can't handle it. And when we get to the energy tips here, I'll say a little bit about that, because it's not that easy. You can't just think that away or meditate that away, okay? We have to have this compassion for people who don't have the ability to contextualize, who don't have the ability to, to manage, or I'm trying to find a better word than control, because nobody can really control this, but we can learn how to work our energies a little better, and shift into self-care, for instance, as I recommended last week. So I'm going to put up the comparative study here for these spiritual movements and teachings, only an excerpt here in regards to the lower vibratory ones. And first I'm going to talk a little bit about this without showing you the slide, because I don't want you to be preoccupied. But I would love it if you make comments and even ask me, okay? So this is just a very small excerpt of some of these spiritual directions and teachings and so forth. And so I can give you, a lot more info if you ask questions. All of this will, of course, be worked through and discussed in the workshop on Saturday that I mentioned. So let me see here what we have. Okay, so I'm going to show this not yet on the screen. So I want you to stay open here for a minute. Things that I've prepared that I wanted to look at is, of course, what is all this this energy work and this self-healing based work? What is that based on? And that starts out with a pretty high consciousness level. The consciousness field of all living beings. This is not the same as the divine consciousness field, but the conscious field of all living beings, which is also based on what is life promoting and what is life inhibiting, okay? And this is what kinesiology, the primary testing method that we use here at transCODES, what this is based on. And that comes out as with a calibrated level of consciousness on the map of consciousness from Dr. Hawkins as 605. So that's kind of like a little bit of a measuring tool here for us, okay? Heart consciousness calibrates around 500. Compassion and understanding and allowing calibrates right around 400. Neutrality and these reading up on things calibrates right around 300, and truth and integrity, which is also empowerment, self-empowerment, and courage, calibrate at 200. Okay, so 200 is our benchmark. Most of you who know a little bit about Dr. Hawkins's work know what this means. This is the benchmark between contractive and expansive energies. It's the threshold between ego and true self. All right. And so with 605, the methodology to actually measure this is really high up there, okay? So it's based on our heart consciousness and above. And I want to share this slide with you here now. And this is actually surprising. So let's look at New Age here in the middle. I don't know if you can see this. It's right in the middle. It only calibrates at 185. That's below truth, guys. Okay, it's based on anger, or it's based on resentment, and the fortune telling with 185 calibrates at the same level of New Age. This is interesting. Okay, so with New Age, what I mean with this, or what was tested here, is those studies and teachings of most of the stuff that you see sort of in the spiritual scene, okay, where there's a strong lingo, of going into certain practices, and wanting to be spiritual, okay. This is shocking maybe for some of you, but this is what testing said actually 10 years ago that Dr. Hawkins had made himself brought up. Atheism calibrates at 165, so even below New Age. Conspiracy theories, guys, this is what most people don't see. While many of us are attracted to conspiracy theories, and this includes myself, okay, so for, in the 80s and the 90s, conspiracy theories were kind of like the only source that gave us a little bit sort of out of the matrix information, okay, but they actually only calibrate at 165, and that's fear-based, guys, okay. Wicca, and also any type of spiritualism that works with spells, okay, only calibrates at 145. Sex, such as Scientology, or that require you to, like Osho, that require you to renunciate, your sort of your worldly being, and often also your money, calibrate only at 135. And cults, just to go a step further here, calibrate at 120. And curses, for instance, only calibrate at 80. This is really, really low, guys, and I want you to understand that, when you look at some of these spiritual things, what you are aligning yourselves to, okay? Okay, and so let's, yes, I know I'm going to catch a lot of shit for this. So guys, ask questions here, okay? Let's go a little higher. What about numerology, astrology? They calibrate above 200, guys. They call it with 210, they calibrate above truth, which means they're integrous. All right, that means, yes, that there is a validity to this. However, fortune telling, and I know you guys, many of you don't know this, but I used to read cards for people 30, 35 years ago, and also tarot, that calibrates lower at 185, okay? And then shamanism, the kind of shamanism that, or let me mention white magic here. White magic only calibrates at 205, but at least above truth. So there's an integrous goal behind this, okay? Shamanism, there's different kinds of shamanism, but shamanism with 260 actually calibrates, above just self-empowerment and courage. And yes, there's a little kitty in the background. There are some expressions of shamanism that I don't want to go into right now that calibrate way lower, and voodoo only calibrates at 80. Same place at like curses. So you got to be careful here. What calls itself shamanism? This sort of new urban shamanism that is sort of new agey calibrates on the level of new age. Okay, transcendental meditation. Calibrates at 410. That's actually really high compared to most of these spiritual schools. And again here, I'm not calibrating the origin of some of the spiritual schools. So there are, Taoism, Buddhism, Tantric Buddhism, all the world religions, they all have different streams and different books that they're based on, and they all calibrate higher actually in their origin, but not so much in their actual expression, okay? So just because something in its origin calibrates very high doesn't mean that the people who practice it, or say the institutions such as the churches who bring it into a collective expression, calibrate just as high. So there's a lot of practitioners that calibrate way lower than the teaching itself, or the books that they were based off themselves. And this is all I wanted to share here, and I really want you to ask questions. in regards to these different spiritual like directions, if you have any. We had a big discussion here this morning in a group about this, and people asked me, whether what I'm doing is a prediction, and it's not. We are picking up on the unconscious precognition of the collective consciousness field, okay? And so it's not actually something that will happen. It is something that is actually already happening. It is just due to our ability to read energies and say with a higher resolution that allows us to see it in a more clear way and also contextualize it, in conjunction with the energy work and so forth that we are doing here ourselves. So these kind of comparative studies, guys, can be super, super interesting. And I'm actually surprised that none of you guys are asking about any particular teacher or any particular, sort of school or whatever, mystic school. Please feel free to ask in the comment section of the edited video. Okay, so as you guys know, when I get the video out of the live stream, I edit it and produce, like, sort of add more infographics and so forth, and then I lose all you guys' comments from the live chat. Okay, so if you would like to know more about where certain teachers or teachings or institutions that offer schools and so forth where they calibrate them, please write this question in the commentary here for the edited version. Annette is asking, palm reading. Palm reading is a mixture of fortune telling, so 185, so it's non-integrous, but it can also reflect on karmic aspects with a person, okay? And our personal karma, guys, calibrates anywhere between, literally 0 and 500. So it isn't until 500, when we learn how to live in our heart consciousness, that we can fully out-vibrate our personal karma. Collective karma can be out-vibrated on the truth level on 200. And so this is why we contextualize consciousness levels and energy levels, with this sort of big distinction between ego and true self. Okay, so palm reading is a mixture of both. I don't think it's a mistake, just like with astrology and so forth. There's a lot of sort of statistics, a lot of really cool wisdom and also science behind that. Okay, and astrology, Vedic astrology, has been practiced for thousands of years, guys, and is truth-based. Okay, but at a certain level of consciousness, at a certain level of development that a person goes through, personal, evolution of their consciousness, they're out-vibrating those karmic or those astrological or numerological tendencies. Okay, so you can out-vibrate your karma, you can out-vibrate your zodiac, you can out-vibrate all that, guys. So that calibrates much higher. That's the positive message here. Okay, so as for the energy tips here now, dealing with these next week's energies who are asking us to rock up, to move into the higher expression of our potential. All right, that means that it's not yet over. Okay, there's a pivotal shift that is coming towards us here, especially this weekend, and you're all gonna feel this, guys. And the main message that I want to transport to you is that this is not the time to give up. This is not the time to quit. This is the time to rock up. This is not a difficult time. This is not a challenging time. This is the perfect time. Okay? We all have an ego. We all have coping mechanisms. We all have things that pull us back, that can block us, that can, of course. but we also all have this technology in us already that allows us to out-vibrate that, to self-heal. And sometimes, yes, it is like a marathon. Sometimes it's all just about pacing, about timing. And sometimes it is just about persistency and dedication. And this is the place that we are at right now. This is about not quitting, guys. This is about keep going. And I know some of you, like including myself, we've been around this thing here, this esoteric spiritual development thing for like 20, 30 years. This is the time, guys, that we have been waiting for. All right? So go and feel this courage come up in you now to come out of the woodwork, as I called it before. Explore the infinite field of possibilities. See that you're in the middle of a huge transmutational process. You don't need to be afraid of the resistances that come along, right? All you need to learn is how to shift your energy. And when you are caught in these low places, okay, then you need to know where to go. And the place to go, guys, is not to go somewhere else or seek guidance outside of you. No, the place to go is to go inward and seek guidance from within your heart. And yes, sometimes it can be really, really low, and then we need somebody else to pull us out. So there are states, when we are in an acute depression or in an acute state of anxiety, where we do need to connect with others, where we need to go out, go to a self-healing meeting of some sorts, AA, Al-Anon, all these self-help groups. They all come in with a conscious level of above 500, guys. They reconnect you with your heart consciousness, no matter what you think about the people, or whether you are an alcoholic or not, and whether this is too low for you or not. This is all just your mind playing games with you, because the actual energy level of these places, these self-help groups, is extremely high, higher than any of the TV shows or songs or movies or, even most of the books that you will read. Okay? So we're at the 0 point right now, and this is a cool time, guys. It's the phoenix energy, the phoenix that rises out of its own ashes. And what are these ashes? What had to die here? What had to burn? It is our own ego. It's the death of our ego, the self-consuming, selfish power in us, that restricts us, that separates us, that basically is the source of all our suffering. All right, and we have to get past that now, and this is the time, guys. It's the perfect time. There is new creativity coming in, there is new life force coming in, and there's also this more healed sort of feminine energy coming in now that doesn't have to destroy anymore, that can go into unconditionality. And there's a little bit of testing here still ahead of us. So right now is a wonderful time to work with new goals, which are really true, to your heart. It's not just enough to know what you want. You also need to go into, well, how do I want it? And what's integrous for me and what isn't. So the main chakras here addressed this, or that will sort of perk up here this next week, will be our 3rd, 4th, and 6th chakra. It's a very beautiful combination of life force. And the negative or lower vibratory expression of life force is egoism, narcissism, willpower, overpowering, controlling, judging, mentalizing. The higher expression of that is unconditionality. It's like really allowing these juices to flow through you, and seeing yourself as a part of a greater whole. And it can lead to wholeness in that way. And the combination with your 4th, with your heart chakra, brings in this ability to really go wide, and to detach and to let go, from all your fears, and to learn how to trust in yourself again, to feel empowered, to feel reassured. And the sixth chakra, which is our third eye, that will bring in the ability to see the larger picture and also to tune into your higher guidance. The last couple of weeks we've been working here with our future self at transCODES, and boy, if you ever want to work on, how to tap into your inner guidance, this is the modality for you. It's called Future Self. You can book this in group sessions or individual sessions here at transCODES. Anyone who's been to this session agrees with me. This is like a really, really cool tool. So my main tip for this next week is to keep calling yourselves on your higher self, on your true self, on the higher expression of yourself, and not just sort of internally and theoretically or conceptually, but actually in the way you show up. Am I showing up with the highest expression of myself that I can? Or am I just trying to get by? Am I half-assing it? So keep doing this. And if you're not sure, if you can't answer this question, then ask yourself perhaps, what is my highest expression? And maybe you've never even given yourself the space to explore that. Then this will be a wonderful opportunity for you to actually go and explore. Sign up for skydiving, sign up for a college course, or do something that you've always wanted to do, I don't know, a sewing course or a knitting course or photography or painting or martial arts or whatever it is that you've always wanted to try out, okay? And maybe you find out it's not it, but then you've refined this, by eliminating. So there are no mistakes, guys. And one of the things that is really important here for this coming week is that you recognize that working with new goals also opens new doors, okay? And doors that you cannot see right now. So you have to be willing to go beyond what your ego can see. And there's something really, really beautiful that came forward in a session in one of those mentioned future self sessions that I want to share with you here real quick, and that is, that is what in us. Okay, what in us is actually the part that sees our vision or that can connect with our future self. And it comes down to a very, very simple truth, guys. The eye with which I see my future is the same eye in which my future sees me. This is a sentence of wisdom that's actually not, I came up with this contextualization, but it's actually Meister Eckhart from the 13th century who said this about the eye with which I see God is the same eye with which God sees me. So even though, as you know, I'm not particularly religious, but some of these statements calibrate extremely high. So this statement calibrates at above 700, guys. All right. So on a practical level here, physically, make sure that you drink enough water. There's a lot of people who live in places where there's a bit of drought or something, like make sure that you hydrate well, watch your kidneys, watch your, your lower back. People still having issues with that. Watch your respiratory system. Again, here, if you live in California where you have these raging fires or other areas that have this problem, drink more water, and, try things such as a salt room or a mud room or a steam room. Work with essential oils, to get past this, all right? Emotionally, guys, I know this is the time where most of us feel extremely powerless. And even if you don't, because you are already in this self-healing sort of arena, most of the people around you will. Powerless, useless, hopeless. Okay, this is the primary emotional energy that we are up against here for this next week. So if you feel haunted by dark forces, or if you know anyone who feels haunted by dark forces or demons or whatever, these things are real, okay? Not like as in you know, that they're real in the sense of that the people are really experiencing this, but what they're experiencing is sort of the neurosis of that, so they get fixated on it, and the fixation of it is then what makes them a loop in this emotional fear and anxiety. Okay, so if you know someone, or if you've been experiencing this yourself in your dreams maybe, or with your energetic sensitivity, okay, then just reset. Okay, your to-go place is your heart. You have to reset, and even if you have to do this 50 times a day, look up the I am breathing technique, which is a energetic centering and clearing technique based on breathing. It's so simple. It only takes a few seconds, and even if you have to do this 50 times a day, you need to get yourself out of that place. All right, emotionally as well as mentally. So my mental tip here is, you know, be really careful with your mental schisms, you know, and these paranoia things, these neurotic things that are coming forward here in this next week. It can trigger this in anybody, and this can also show up in like sudden jealousy or whatever, you know, that you sort of suspecting everybody, you know, to have a malicious intent or something like that. All right, so catch yourself, go into your heart, reset, let it go. You know, let it go. Breathe through this. If it is true what you sensing, so well, then you will still feel this, you know, a day later. But if it was a mental fixation, okay, then it will calm down and it will, you know, sort of poof away. Ask yourself questions that are based on, you know, perhaps something like, what would my true self do? You know, what would my higher self recommend, or what would be, you know, an expression that my higher self would pick, would choose here if you were in the situation that you have to make decisions. And socially, you know, or in relationships, my tips are, you know, it's work with this soft eye, you know, of unconditionality, of compassion, and you know, it entails giving the other the benefit of the doubt. So if you are in a relationship where both of you are striving for living a life as true selves, you know, then you also have to trust in that in the other, instead of trying to fix them or trying to tell them what a solution is. You know, step back. Trust in their true self being able to be able to work this out. Just because you have certain insights or you're at a certain place doesn't mean that both of you need to have the exact same timing. All right? So step back and go into this place of true love with your partner, and at the same time, remember that true love, unconditional love, is not based on sacrifice. That's a subject that came up for a lot of you guys right now. No sacrifice. So we've had some sessions here last week with codependency, and I'm telling you, this is a pretty complex subject. All right, spiritually, you know, the subjects that we will be dealing with here is this, what I mentioned earlier, you know, the phoenix, the heron, the peacock, the hummingbird, the owl. Those are all sort of bird energies that come in with, that indicate some kind of transmutational energy in us. And the bird, you know, the bird is kind of like, you know, there's of course different classes of birds, and they all have different energies and so forth. I don't want to go into this here right now, but the bird is kind of the symbol, you know, of this entity or this being that can be on the earth and in the heavens at the same time, like a messenger, you know, like you know, the wings. A lot of you guys see this in the etheric as well, you know, and they all bring in different qualities, different wisdoms with them. So, but when you see a lot of birds, when you in your dreams or in the etheric, or you feel this in you, then it often means that there's transmutation going on. And energetically, guys, I hate to say it that way, but this is all about navigating darkness. Okay, the person that can, you know, consciously transmute these kind of intense energies will facilitate inner and outer darkness. Once more here, I know it's advertisement, but you know I don't mind knowledge and resource free, only me to make. But this is something that I truly recommend, guys. The intensive that we have come up next week, the etheric protection a weekend intensive, where we teach you in an etheric way through remote energy how to protect your energy on many different levels, how to not absorb energies, how to not fall prey to projection, and you know, to understand the energetic, the unseen interaction between energies a little better. All right, guys. On a collective level here, sort of what we're going to see in the news. I'm expecting issues with corporations, with companies, perhaps also Wall Street, you know, in regards to regulations or them violating regulation. There seems to be something cooking, okay, also in the crypto market. And I got to rush now to get ready for the crypto spiritual update here for this week, in which, by the way, I have another surprise, another comparative study, namely of all these economical, political, and money systems, and you know, how all these collective energies are going to translate into the cryptocurrency financial markets. All right, guys, I hope I can see here in the live monitor that the quality of the live transmission here on YouTube was really bad today. So no worries, the edited version will have the full video and audio on there. Sorry, sometimes that's not in my hand. That has to do with internet or YouTube. And I hope you guys learned a little bit today. I hope I was able to shake up some of your rigid beliefs a little bit. And if you're mad at me for saying certain things, that's okay. Put this in the comments as well. All right, this is what I'm here for. I'm reflecting collective energies. Thank you so much for showing up, for sharing. Thank you, guys.